So welcome everyone. Our speaker today is the Reverend Dr. Sarah Voss, who comes to us from Nebraska. And Sarah is a pioneer in the relationship between spirituality and mathematics. She began her career teaching mathematics at the college level as an atheist, and after a conversion experience went on to seminary and got a doctorate in theology and was called to ministry in the Unitarian Universalist tradition. And she continued to explore and teach this connection between mathematics and spirituality, and her doctoral thesis became her first book, What Number is God? And then she went on to write another book called Zero, Reflections of Nothing. And her most recent book, The Math Mystic's Guide to Creative Spirituality, is a collection of a lot of her work over the decades in this endeavor. And there's a table at the back with more information. The publisher of this book happens to be located here in Eugene. So I'm very pleased to have Sarah here and look very much forward to this very interesting talk, which I understand will have some interactive activities included in it. So please join me in welcoming Sarah Voss.
Good morning. I've been waiting for this for a long time. Right off, I want to thank all of you. Am I on?
Yes.
Okay, just to make sure. And thank Tom McFarland in particular for inviting me to this Center for Sacred Sciences today. 40 years ago, I was teaching math at a small women's college in Omaha, Nebraska, which is where I still live. And when I became very interested in using mathematics as a language for spiritual insight, and when I began searching the library and my computer, I think at that time I had a K-Pro computer. Does that ring any bells with anyone here? That's sort of an age question. So I began, and for some time during those years, I ran across a reference to this center, and I was just fascinated, and that reference eventually turned into a meeting, or at least corresponding with Tom, and I have corresponded with him on and off ever since that time, but never met him before yesterday. So it's a great pleasure, and thank you, Tom. It also led me to information about the center, and I absorbed whatever I could through the computer. I was totally captivated by the open use the center was making between science and mysticism and non-duality. So years ago, I already knew that I wanted to visit this center in person sometime. And it's taken quite a few years. But my presence here today is part of the answer to my dreams. So again, thank you for this invitation. When Tom contacted me earlier this year about doing a Zoom presentation here sometime, maybe in May, I told him I preferred to speak in person. And today I'm delighted to be here and to share with you some of what I've discovered about math and spirituality over the last few decades. Back in the late 1980s, when I was still the mathematics program director at the College of St. Mary in Omaha, I had an experience which I sometimes refer to now as my mystic initiation. I've shared a part of this experience in a recent podcast, but I'd like to walk you through it also. The College of St. Mary was an all-women's school, quite small by comparison to the University of Nebraska at Omaha, which is where I had been teaching prior to my transition to CSM. And my calculus classes at UNO were largely filled with men and had a limit of 45 or so, and were in some respects a weed-out program in the university math department. At CSM, College of St. Mary, I was teaching a calculus class to 5 women and young women, and the goal was to get them to stay through it at all costs. Not only was this a big change from the university, but also teaching at a religious school gave me more permission to venture into areas that were essentially forbidden at a state public school university. In any case, one day I found myself telling my CSM class how the definite integral of calculus seemed to be a lot like God. And I now understand that this was the first bloom in my garden of mathaphors. Mathaphors is a word I coined, and it simply means metaphors that are drawn from mathematics. In a few more years, I would write a thesis in order to obtain my doctorate of ministry from the Unitarian Universalist School of Theology in Chicago, as you mentioned, Tom. That would later become my first book, which I didn't realize you had that book. And if I had, I wouldn't have had to carry this heavy thing all the way here, which was What Number is God? Metaphors, Metaphysics, Metamathematics, and the Nature of Things. This book was has a long title, and it started out as my thesis, as I said, but it only had metaphors, metaphysics, and metamathematics on it. And then SUNY, when they published it in 1995, when they published it, they added, and the nature of things. So I don't know whether that covers anything or made it more open to other people, probably. So I was happy that happened, and glad for the experience to be able to do that. After I found myself telling my students how God was like the definite integral of calculus, it was a hard time for me then. I was going through a lot of issues in my mental and spiritual life. I called myself an atheist at that point in time, and then during that period, it was just difficult. Maybe just midlife crisis. I'm not quite sure what all was involved in that, but it was hard. And when I found myself talking about God being like the definite integral of calculus to my 5 students, even I was sort of shocked. What on earth are you doing? But I went from there to acknowledging that I was on a transition. And so I eventually, a couple years took me to go to the seminary in Chicago. I began to study. I wanted to study math and religion, and I wanted to do it in an official way, which I did by getting the doctorate in it, and basically the one that got me started on this. But somehow this path has been kind of hard, difficult to follow, and there have been many times when I've wanted to give it up. Not everyone likes math. And so sometimes it's difficult to get an audience and to get the interest of people. And there were a lot of other reasons that I kept finding it getting discouraged, I'd say. But in some vaguely mystical way, something always kept happening that would keep me in it. And I finally just gave into that and started actually counting on it. That's a pun. So, let me see, I have to have these now. In the 30 years that since I first published the What Number is God, I've pursued the study of math and spirituality in many ways. Teaching, giving workshops, writing essays, preaching math sermons, anything I could think of and had the opportunity and means to do. And last year, I published a representative collection of these things, these various things in this book. And now I think of it as a sequel to What Number is God, because it's got most everything I tried to do with this. And now my goal is to attract some younger persons who might be willing and interested in carrying it on, because I think it has a lot to offer to our spiritual instincts. What I'd like to do for the rest of this time I have with you today is to share a little more information about 4, maybe 5, hopefully 5 if we have time, of the mathaphors that I've discovered over these years. And I'd like to move on with some other examples of using math to enlighten, in some way, our spiritual understanding. And one way is pretty simple. Part of spiritual growth is learning how to be socially more helpful, more considerate of each other, fairer, kinder, less judgmental, more open to conflict resolution, sort of a golden rule kind of thing. One way math can help with this is through statistics. And statistics help us inform us so that we can make better social decisions. One of my favorite places where I found this happening is in Harper's Magazine. Any of you read Harper's Magazine? Yeah. They may recognize what is called, it's a trademark. And it's been a trademark since, I think, I'm trying to remember. I think it was 1984 that it was trademarked as Harper's Index. So every month since 1984, you can pick up a Harper's magazine and find some interesting facts. And I'm going to read some from this one, which is the latest, September of this year. And they're always different. Okay. Chance that President Trump played golf on any given day during the first 5 months of his second term, 1 in 4. Minimum amount that Trump has earned through his cryptocurrency company since January, $57,350,000. Average net worth of a household in the bottom 50% of income earners in the United States, 4,805. In China, 9,760. Portion of Chinese who say their country should send people to Mars, 3 out of 4. Of Russians who say so, 2 out of 3. Of Americans, 1 out of 2. Estimated percentage of U.S. GDP that relief spending on climate disasters had accounted for last year, 3.2%. Percentage of Americans who say they would try to conserve water or electricity if a public official asked, 72. Who believe others would do the same, 42. Minimum value of the investments in U.S. clean energy projects that have been canceled this year. $15,500,000,000. Estimated percentage, just two more, estimated percentage change in the wealth of the average person if the global temperature rises by 4 degrees Celsius, minus 40. And year by which this rise is projected to do the same, is projected to occur. 2100. It's about 75 years from now. Yeah, that's enough of these. So statistics tell us things and give us information to make decisions, and can be very helpful. Read just a little bit out of this book about statistics and religion. Statistics show that as a group, religious folk live longer than non-religious folk. I like that. And that in addition to lengthening your life, religion can also help lower your chances of getting sick. That data gives me hope. Statistics gives us new perspective. It suggests new paths, brings encouragement and reassurance, and finally leads us straight to church, whereas everyone knows hope hides in empty pews just waiting for someone to catch it, carry it home. Months later, it reappears as something like impersonal worlds that have become friendly, healthy villages, or as raw statistics that have grown into new cures, or abandoned guns, or emptied iron cages, or, and I think this is the one I like best, as blooming marigolds in discarded coffee cans lining the decaying wooden stones. Think of those marigolds as little computer programs and everything that comes out of them. So, yeah. And now I'd like to share or to mention that another way that math can help us grow in our spiritual understanding is much more philosophical. And the easiest way for me to do this is to just demonstrate it a little bit, but that demonstration will be out of the ordinary, to say somewhat. When you hear philosophical, I always think something very rigorous in a philosophical journal or something like that, that's sometimes pretty hard to stick with, and you maybe have to increase your vocabulary quite a bit to understand what you're reading too. But so most of the rest of what I'm doing is not the philosophical part, which is very, very interesting. And but that's not exactly what I'm giving you here, other than my little experiment with the metaphor, God is like the definite integral of calculus. Now, I'm supposed to have an empty piece of paper here. In all the things I have, I do. Okay. All right. This will take you back quite a few years if you ever studied calculus. And if you didn't, it will open you up so you'll run right home and look it up in the calculus book. Okay. So the definite integral of calculus is usually introduced to people in something that looks like this. Page of, this is the definite integral of calculus defined right in here. So you're welcome to look at that if you want to. And it's got a lot of graphs, a lot of symbols, mathematical symbols, and it takes a while to get people to understanding that language enough to be able to understand what it is. That page is really about adding up physical rectangles indefinitely, infinitely many, which is, if you look at that book, that's what that will say. And so here's just an ordinary piece of paper. It's, what, roughly 8 by 11, say 88 square inches. We all know that math equation. So, and so it's 88 square inches. That's how big this one is. But supposing that you rip it off like that. Now, what you can say that it's approximately 88 square inches. It's not exactly, but it's approximately 88 square inches. And if you want to get a better estimate for it, simply fold it a couple times and measure these. See if I can show you that. All right, now there's 4 triangles on it. And if you take this length times the width, you're getting different values for each one of them. And the total will be closer to what this is than 8 times 11. Everyone see that? Okay. And if you want to get it even better, that's easy. You just do it again. Okay. Now here you have one way up here, and the width is a little different. Same for each one of these, the width. So this length times this width gives you an approximation of this that is closer than the one that would be, what, about an inch times 11. Okay, y'all see that. So now your imagination takes over. And you do this again and again and again and again, infinitely. And what you get, actually in many cases, turns out to be a specific number, or a specific something, sum of all these rectangles, which is really accurate. You know, now you have to do this infinitely, so much longer than sitting here. But that's what you'll get. Do you see that? Everybody see what happens with that? And when I was experiencing this, doing this, I realized that's sort of like there's all these many, many parts, and they don't seem like they could be collected in some manageable way. And that's a lot like what God does. Yeah, for me. So that's why I have used this as a metaphor, because I felt that that process was really intriguing, how that could happen, and yet here I was teaching it and to these students, and it works. And not only that, but most people don't realize that the definite integral of calculus, if they realize anything about it, is it's so useful in our practical world. It's everywhere. The calculus is just everywhere in things that we do. We wouldn't be able to do them without that knowledge. And so I find that just fascinating. It was so helpful for me personally that I wanted to try to share how I had experienced that and seen the world a little differently because of that. That there could be this connection that was so real and unbelievable, and yet true.
So you said that God is like the definite integral in that it has all sorts of parts. God has all sorts of parts, and then later you said something about connection.
Yeah, I use this thing that the parts and the many are, that some of the parts and the many are one and the same thing. And many is God.
Okay, and can you give me an example of a part?
You?
Okay. So anything in existence is a part?
Yeah.
Okay. So what you're saying is that I'm a part and the many is a part, so we're all one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, she got it.
Successful parent.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So let's see where I am on all of this. I wanted to talk a little bit more about the idea of God being described by a mathematical metaphor, a metaphor drawn from the book. And it's not the only way. As I mentioned, you can do philosophical kinds of things. But one of the things that when I first started doing this, I had trouble with was the imaging of God as something that was mathematical. But what happened there was I started looking through metaphors and reading about metaphors, and God has been described as a metaphor who knows how many different times in different ways. God is a king, God is a ruler, God is, what else? What else do you think of? God is father, God is mother. What else? Compassionate. God is love. Yeah. Doesn't have to be something physical that we know of, but it's God is love. All those are metaphors. Yeah. And we use them because we're human and we like them. So why can't God be a mathematician as well? And in fact, over history, there have been suggestions of that in many different ways. One of the most recent that got me going was a Far Side cartoon. And in this cartoon, there was a picture of a very old man, white beard, kind of godlike man, with his computer in front of him. And on the computer screen, there was a picture of a human walking along, and up above, there was this boulder that was just kind of right over that human's head. And then God's finger was on the smite button. And the caption was, God at his computer. God is a mathematician. So that's the kind of thing that really spoke to me. I could see that very clearly. I wasn't too crazy about the smite stuff, but that, you just have to take what you get with humor. So, now, there are some other metaphors, and I have done a lot with metaphors, metaphors drawn from mathematics. And what I want to do until either we run out of time or you stop me is show you some of those metaphors. And the first one I want to do comes from mathematical game theory. And in order to do this, I need you to open your minds and take out your money. Well, you don't have to take out your money right now, but you're going to be $1 richer if you win this auction, because I'm going to auction this dollar off to the highest bidder. So somebody's going to get something out of this. And if this just works like any other auction ever does, except there's a little twist to it. And the twist is that the second highest bidder has to pay the last thing they bid. Okay, so there's just a little twist to this dollar auction. Everyone got that? If you win this, then you just take it. And if you don't win it, you go for, if you were up there, the last person who bid before that has to pay the auctioneer. That's me. So I come out really royally here. So let me auction this off. Who will give me a dime? Okay, my daughter will give me a dime. Who'll give me 15 cents? Oh, got a couple there. How about 25 cents? Got a couple there. Yeah, yes, a good audience. You know when there's a bargain. How about 40 cents? Got that too. See, 50 cents. 70 cents. Crank it up a little bit. There we go. Okay. 80 cents? Okay, yeah, makes sense. You know, just not quite such a winning, but it's pretty good, really. If it were $1 million, it'd be a lot more. Yeah, but it's just $1. Who'll give me 90 cents for this? Got it? Who'll give me $1 for it? Who will give me $1.02? You will? Okay, got it. Okay, who will give me $1.10? Got it. All right. Who will give me $1.15?
Question, will you autograph it?
Huh?
Will you autograph it?
I couldn't hear.
Will you autograph?
Oh, will I autograph it? Yeah, I'll autograph it. Okay, got it with an autograph. There you go. Real thinker here. What were we at? What did you say you would pay for it? $1.40? Okay. Anybody else? Who was the person before you? What were you going to pay for it? $1.15? Oh, you're offering $1.50. Okay. All right. Who else? $1.50, $1.40? How about $1.51? Oh, he said $1.60. Thank you. I appreciate your accommodating me. $3. Oh my goodness gracious! Look at that. Yeah, right. $3 and $1 to $1.50. Was that the last one? $1.60. This is unusual. Every time I've done this before, it's usually panned out at about $1.40. Yeah. So we're at $3 and $1.50. $1.60. Thank you. Got to get that extra 10 cents. Anyone else? Going once? Going twice? Going $3. Okay. Why is this a social issue? Let me suggest that we think about the nuclear arms race. That's what I'm trying to think of. Yeah. Yeah. It's exactly like that. And that's scary. Because you get to a point where it changes everything. And it becomes something that we don't want and can't get out of it. How do we get out of this? Put it down. There it is. There it is. Yeah, there's no way out once you get in. Yep, it's bad news. So you don't do it. You just stop the game. My hope from this is that if, say, a bunch of younger people were playing this, and then you have an educational discussion about it, they learn, oh, some games you just can't get out of if you start. And that's what we've got here. That gives us a chance to be on a spiritual plane where we're helping each other and not doing some of this damage. That's what I like about mathaphors. They show it. I want to demonstrate another one. Snell was a Dutchman back in Any historians here? Was it 1600? Maybe something like that. And he came up with, they were experimenting on light. And he came up with some really interesting things on that, which I want to try to share with you. This is a metaphor for redemption, which is a spiritual issue. Any way you look at it, redemption is a spiritual issue. And I want to have a demonstration of what happens, so we'll do that first. I need 5 people who are willing to stand in a line and do a dance. And it's a simple dance. It's like going like this and moving forward while you're doing it. I keep forgetting. Okay, now link arms like you're a line dancer and practice just a little bit. Yeah, there you go. Okay, practice doing what I just did, like that. Okay, good. Now you're in a team. You're a team, and you're going to walk forward here. And when you dance forward, dance fast. I want you to all dance at about the same pace, but together, and fast as you can. Dance straight forward. Always keep your line straight. Notice it's just parallel to that line on the floor, not the green one, but the crack in the floor, and it's parallel to here. Okay? So when you end, you should still be in that position. Okay, the catch here is that as soon as you step on the green line, you change the rate at which you're dancing. You slow it down. So first you're doing, I can't do this. I'll do it here. First you're doing it really fast, and then when you hit that, you go. And you're going forward all the time. Got it?
And then you stay slow afterwards?
You stay slow afterwards. Keep going. Okay. That's it. It's not really that hard, but watch this. Slow down on this end, yeah. Keep going on this. There you go. Keep your line straight. That's it. Good. Stop. Okay. See what happened? The line bent. Got that? That's the whole point of this. The line bent. All right. That, you can sit down. Thank you. Give them a clap. Yeah. What this shows you is what actually happens in textbooks on light, where they're looking at the speed of light going, well, the angle at which a light goes from one medium to another. And there's an angle at which it hits one medium and then goes into another. For example, light travels faster in air than it does in water. So if you had a bottle of water here and a straw there, and you shined the light on the straw, what you would see is a curved line. You would see it bend. And I've done that, and that works. You see it bend. It's like an optical illusion. It feels like an optical illusion, but it is not. What it is what you just saw happening here, where the angle at which it enters is different than the angle at which it goes into the new air. Yeah. So there's a difference in angles. And if they form a ratio, those two angles form a ratio that's less than 1, that is, it's a fraction, then there's a critical angle called the Brewster's angle, which the French physicists discovered it in 1808. It ensures that all the light is reflected back on the original medium that it was going through. And that condition is called total internal reflection, which I like the nickname for that, which is frustrated refraction. Yeah, frustrated refraction, when all the light is internally reflected in one thing. And then if the two angles are not identical and the light passes from the first to the second and the angles are not the same, then you get the change, and the line bends some way. A little arithmetic and trigonometry make this a lot more obvious how that works, but I thought you would get a better sense for it by doing the dancing people. So now what I have done in my book is to try to use this to understand redemption. Okay? And redemption, jeepers, how many of you, have any of you ever made a mistake? Oh, some of you are not telling the truth. All right, most of us have made a mistake. And some of them are big mistakes. Some of them do damage to somebody else. Some of them harm other people. And sometimes we call those mistakes sins. Yeah. Yeah, they're sins. So we have ways of fixing some of those things as best as we can. We all do that. In some ways we do reparations or apologize or personally responsibility. Absolutely. Yeah. I like the one about reparations, which a lot of people do. Sometimes they do it for other people because the other people are what, dead or gone or whatever. Here in this country, what year was it? I can't remember what year it was. 1999, our government gave, I have it written someplace, how much money, quite a bit of money, to each person or to their heirs who was put into a Japanese American camp and for the duration of the Second World War. That was quite a gap. 1945, the war was over, and here in 1999, the government did something to try to repair it. So that's a big reparation. I had a really good Japanese friend at that time who was working in the church where I was going, and she was older at that time, and I saw what a difference that made for her. It was redemption, basically. It was lovely. So I think that all of the things I was showing you depended on the speed at which people were doing the dancing, for example, or the angles of incidents were, they were also dependent on the speed. I think the difference in speeds is comparable to the difference of the rates of psychic awareness, vision, and maturity between the harmer and the harmed. And the greater difference, in order for redemption, the more bend must occur. So I'm kind of jumping over some stuff here. For true redemption to occur, empathy must travel from one person or a group of persons to another, and then it must change directions or paths when the energy reaches the second person, and such that the injured person is moved away from the routine and finds a path of unprecedented healing, renewal, and freedom. And then, if you want to know more, I suggest you buy the book. And look at page 194, which has a list of things about how this process works, a little bit more dedicated. So, I'm going to do that because I want to get through some more of these, and I think I'm starting to run out of time a little bit. So that's a metaphor that is for how light can be used mathematically to show how redemption might occur. I want to give you something. Okay. And I want to end on this with a story. But it's not just a story. I want to make it into a skit. And I know that somebody here in this room knows this story. One Grain of Rice. And it's by Demi. And it is in your library on the children's corner. So I want to share this with you. And I need some people to help me share it. Even though it's a book, it's not really very long to read. But I need 2 volunteers. One will be the Raja, which is like a king, and in India. And the other will be a little girl named Rani. All right, long ago in India, there lived a Raja who believed that he was wise and fair, as a Raja should be. And the people in his province were rice farmers. The Raja decreed everyone must give nearly all of their rice to him. Okay. The Raja promised the people, and the Raja said,
I will store the rice safely so that in time of famine, everyone will have rice to eat and no one will go hungry.
Okay. Each year, the Raja's rice collectors gathered nearly all the people's rice and carried it away to the royal storehouses. All right. For many years, the rice grew well, and the people gave nearly all of their rice to the Raja, and the storehouses were always full. But the people were left with only just enough rice to get by. Okay, all right. Then one year, the rice grew badly, and there was famine and hunger, and the people had no rice to give to the Raja, and they had no rice to eat. Okay. The Raja's ministers implored him, Your Highness, let us open the royal storehouses and give the rice to the people as you promised. And the Raja cried,
No. How do I know how long the famine may last? I must have the rice for myself. Promise or no promise, a Raja must not go hungry.
Time went on, and the people grew more and more hungry. Okay, but the Raja would not give out the rice. One day, the Raja ordered a feast for himself and his court, as it seemed to him a Raja should know now and then, now and then, even when there is a famine. He ordered this feast for himself. A servant led an elephant from a royal storehouse to the palace, carrying 2 baskets of rice. A village girl named Rani saw a trickle of rice was falling from one of the baskets, and quickly she jumped up and walked beside the elephant and catch the falling rice in your skirt, in your apron. And you were clever, and you began to make a plan. Okay, at the palace, the guard cried, Halt, thief! Where are you going with that rice? And Rani said,
I am not a thief. This rice fell from one of the baskets, and I am returning it now to the Raja.
When the Raja heard about Rani's good deed, he asked his ministers to bring her before him. And the Raja said to Rani,
I wish to reward you for returning what belongs to me. Ask me for anything, and you shall have it.
And Rani said,
Your Highness, I do not deserve any reward at all, but if you wish, you may give me 1 grain of rice.
And the Raja said,
Only 1 grain of rice. Surely you will allow me to reward you more plentifully, as a Raja should.
and Rani said,
Oh, very well. If it pleases your highness, you may reward me in this way. Today, you will give me a single grain of rice. Then each day, for 30 days, you'll give me double the rice you gave me the day before. Thus, tomorrow you'll give me 2 grains of rice. The next day, 4 grains of rice, and so on for 30 days.
and the Raja said,
This seems to me a modest reward, but you shall have it.
and Rani was presented on day 1 with a single grain of rice. Okay, and on day 2, Rani was presented with 2 grains of rice. You get it. Okay. And then on the 9th day, Rani was presented with 256 grains of rice.
Oh,
She had received in all 511 grains of rice, only enough for a small handful.
oh, this is rice.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
And this girl, the Raja said,
This girl is honest, but not very clever. She would have gained more rice by keeping what fell into her skirt.
on the 12th day, Rani received 2,048 grains of rice, about 4 handfuls. We're keeping her very busy here. On the 13th day, she received 4,096 grains of rice, enough to fill a bowl. Get smarter. On day 16th day, Rani was presented with a bag containing 32,768 grains of rice. After that, the Raja said,
This doubling adds up to more rice than I expected, but surely her reward won't amount to much more.
and on the 24th day, is there a 24th day in it? Yeah, okay. There was 8,388,608 grains of rice, enough to fill 8 baskets, which were carried to her by her 8 royal deer.
Is this the one?
And on the 27th day,
27th
yeah,
day?
32 Brahma bulls were needed to deliver 64 baskets of rice.
That was almost
And
68
Raja
million.
was deeply troubled, and the Raja said,
1 grain of rice has grown very great indeed, but I shall fulfill the reward to the end, as a Raja should.
okay. And then on day 29, Raja was presented with the contents of 2 royal storehouses. Okay.
268 million.
2, yes.
Yeah. And on day 30, on the 30th and final day, 256 elephants crossed the province carrying the contents of the last 4 royal storehouses. 536,870,912 grains of rice. And the Raja said,
I certainly hope the servants that counted these rice one at a time were sufficiently tipped. And then he said, And what will you do with this rice now that I have none?
and Rani said,
I shall give it to all the hungry people, and I shall leave a basket of rice for you, too, if you promise from now on to take only as much rice as you need.
and the Raja said,
I promise.
and for the rest of his days, the Raja was truly wise and fair, as a Raja should be. So, yeah, let's give them a round of
Blessings on the Raja.
Children, the reason I brought this story is that I wanted to illustrate that this numerical thing is something that children can understand and learn from. because this is the doubling process. And where do we see that? We see it in population explosion. Where else? Investments, finances. Yeah. Okay, this is my last example. These can bring about good things. They can also bring about not so good things, but there are ways at getting a feeling for how mathematics is important, how it can change your understanding and your decision making and your hope. And I'm hoping for the hope. So thank you.